day. Hey, good morning. Welcome. This week was St. Patrick's Day. So we've been talking about Irish whiskey. We started with Irish whiskey part 1. Talk about Irish whiskey part 2. Now, if you remember, Irish whiskey was living the dream, right? I mean, there was distilleries up. It was the #1 whiskey in the world. You know, everybody is on Irish whiskey's dick. Life is just beautiful. It's just fucking beautiful. Right? But just like most things in history, what goes up must veer to the side a little bit, wiggle up, and then come down. There were a number of factors, both internal and external, which led to this decline. Boom, boom, boom. However, one of the main turning points was the patenting in 1832 of the coffee still by Aeneas Coffee. The coffee still. So what is a still? Like, have you heard of a still? What a still is, it is a part of the distillation process when you're distilling liquor. This is per the website winesandspiritsacademy.com. A pot still is called an alembic still. It is typically made from copper. Copper was used traditionally because it is a good conductor of heat and it extracts sulfur from the distillate. The classic pot still has different components. The bottom pot is called kettle, where the ferment is heated. The ferment is evaporated and the vapors travel through the swan-shaped neck. And it reaches the worm, a spiral-shaped copper tube attached to the condenser where the vapor pour is condensed to a liquid. This is your pot still. So this is what, and places still use it today, but this is what they used initially to distill liquor. Aeneas Coffee came and shut down the still industry. Okay, so instead of them going from the pot still, he created the coffee still, which is today called a column still. Column still, which is sometimes referred to as a coffee still, or continuous still. It is relatively contemporary and designed in such a way that pure alcohols derive directly from the ferment. It is used for industrial and mass commercial alcohol production. So they're able to produce more whiskey quicker, right? So, which is great because it's for your bottom line. You want more whiskey to create. We could get it out of the city. We could do some sexy things with this. Let's go. Column stills are made from stainless steel and comprises a tall column structure attached above the top of the boiling kettle designed to attain pure vapors. It is divided into chambers using perforated plates. The still is constantly heated at the bottom, so when the ferment is poured from the cooler top part, and when it hits the steam, it vaporizes, it sends the alcohol back to the top. When the alcohol carrying the vapor passes through the perforated plates, it condenses the heavier particles, and only alcohol carrying vapors continues to the top, travels through the pipes attached to the condensers where the vapors are condensed to the desired liquid. So let's look at what that looks like real quick. Your column still right there. See the difference is like it has a higher top, so it allows the process to kind of to be done in one area. Gives it more room for it to do its thing. Okay, so now that you know the difference between these two stills, why does it fucking matter what happened? Why did they disrupt Irish whiskey? Ironically, Coffey was both the former Inspector General of Excise in Ireland and subsequently, after leaving the excise service, an Irish distiller himself. His patent, the Coffey still, was a continuous distillation apparatus which offered an improvement on the traditional pot still. Although similar continuous stills had been proposed in the past, including by other distillers themselves, the Coffey still was the most effective and soon entered widespread use. That doesn't sound bad to me. That sounds great. Unlike traditional pot stills, which were operated in batched manner, Coffey stills could be continuously operated. This made them cheaper to operate as they require less fuel and more efficient to run, producing a continuous rapid output of spirit. The advantage also came with a downside. As a consequence of increasing the alcohol concentration in the product, Coffey stills remove some of the other volatile components responsible for flavor. As a result, their use proved extremely controversial when first introduced. So because the way of the still that it was set up, it was removing the looks like some poor components or some volatile components that, maybe you wouldn't want in your mixture, but it creates a good flavor. So people are pissed off about that, which, I don't know that that's something to be mad. I can say, like, yeah, the taste has changed, but if it's better for me, I don't know. People want what they want, I guess. That's what we're going to go with. People want what they want. Ireland was the initial testing ground for the Kofi still, with Kofi showcasing them in his own distillery and offering them to other Irish distillers. Although there were 7 in operation in Ireland by 1833, their use did not become widespread among the larger distilleries. In particular, the Big Four Dublin distillers, proud of their existing produce, scoffed at its use, questioning if its product, grain whiskey, which they termed neutral or silent, a tasteless spirit, could be termed whiskey. It wasn't that the distillers were Luddites, afraid of change. Their distilleries were among the most advanced in the world. The distillers were simply steadfast in the belief that their existing methods yielded a superior whiskey. Oh, man. Don't tell me they're going to stick to, be one of those people who can't go with change. You see something that is revolutionizing the industry. Oh, man, I don't know. For instance, John Jameson trialed a Kofi still at his distillery, but chose to not adopt the technology because he was not satisfied with the quality of the product it produced. Therefore, in the face of opposition in Ireland, Kofi offered his still to the English gin and Scottish whiskey distillers, who proved more receptive and where the technology gained widespread use. Oh, he fumbled the ball. He fumbled the ball. They had the industry on lock. They had the world in their motherfucking hands. And they gave it to Scotland, who makes a Scotch whiskey and gin, which is made all over the world. Ay. The adoption of the Kofi still in Scotland was indirectly assisted by Ireland's Great Famine of 1840s, which led to the repealing of the Corn Laws, which between 1815 and 1846 had restricted the import of cheaper foreign grain into Britain and Ireland. After the laws were repealed in 1846, cheap American corn could be imported and used to produce neutral spirit and Kofi stills. This spirit, though lacking in taste, could then be blended with traditional pot still derived spirit to produce a cheaper blended whiskey. And this blended whiskey, which was less intense in taste than pure pot still, was to prove popular in Britain, capturing much market share from Irish pot pure still whiskey. So people are liking the toned down flavor of the whiskey that's being produced versus the hardcore whiskey that they've been used to. Despite changing tastes and failing market share, the adoption of Kofi stills were stubbornly resisted by Irish distillers for many years, with some arguing for restrictions on their use. So it just sounded like they was just haters. They just started hating hard. You can't win the game, so hate on the game. For instance, in 1878, the big Dublin distillers jointly published a pamphlet entitled Truths About Whiskey, in which they refer to the output of Kofi stills as good, bad, or indifferent, but it cannot be whiskey, and it ought not to be sold under that name. Ooh, that is definitely some old-timey English lambs there. That's real old-timey English disrespectful. In 1904, almost 17 years after the Kofi still has been patented, the senior manager of Ireland's largest rural distillery, Almonds of Bandon, placed an outright ban on the introduction of Kofi stills at his distilleries in the face of opposition from a director. They just stubborn. The issue came to a head in 1908 when a royal commission was appointed to investigate the issue. By this point, 60% of all whiskey produced in Britain and Ireland was made in coffee stills. In 1909, the Royal Commission settled the argument, declaring that whiskey could refer to the output of either coffee or pot stills. By comparison, a similar debate occurred in France, such that under French law, cognac must be double distilled in pot stills, whereas coffee stills are permissible in the production of Armagnac. I feel so bad. I'm a bartender. I don't know how to pronounce that. But Armagnac, because it has cognac, Armagnac. Somebody help. They fumbled the ball. They gave the game to the ops. And yeah, whiskey just went downhill. In addition to the introduction of blended whiskey and the Irish distillers' failure to account for its appeal to changing tastes, there was a number of additional issues which placed further pressure on the Irish distillers. The Irish War of Independence, the subsequent Civil War and trade war with Britain, which cut off whiskey exports to Britain and all Commonwealth countries. Then Irish whiskey's biggest markets. Prohibition in the United States. Bum, bum, bum. Which severely curtailed exports to Irish whiskey's second biggest market. Gosh, they lost so much time hating on the coffee stills that they just lose the money. Irish whiskey had accounted for more than 60% of whiskey sales in the U.S. in the 1800s. Damn. Widespread counterfeiting of Irish whiskeys in America and Britain. Protectionist policies introduced by the Irish Free State government, which significantly capped whiskey exports in the hope of taxing domestic consumption. And finally, overexpansion and mismanagement at several Irish distilleries. Together, these factors greatly hampered exports and forced many distilleries into economic difficulties and out of business. And by the early 20th century, Scotland has surpassed Ireland to become the world's largest whiskey producer. Son of a bitch. Scotland came up. And you know, Ireland can't be mad because they gave Scotland the game. They gave them the playbook. When British historian Alfred Barnard published his account of the distilleries of Britain and Ireland in 1887, there were 28 distilleries in operation in Ireland. By the 1960s, there were only a handful of these remaining in operation, and in 1966, 3 of these chose to amalgamate their operations under the name of Irish Distillers and to close their existing facilities and concentrate their operations in a new purpose-built facility to be constructed beside the old Middleton Distillery in County Cork. That was a long-ass sentence. But that's so sad. So what ended up happening was they realized that they're stronger together. You know, they probably save more money if they band their sources together. And they ended up just coming together and working under one name, which it does help them overall because now that distiller is big all over. In 1972, these were joined by the only other remaining Irish operation, Bush Mills, so that by the mid-1970s, there were only 2 whiskey distilleries in operation in Ireland. The new Middleton Distillery and the old Bush Mills Distillery, both owned by Irish distillers, and with only one of these having operated during Irish whiskey's golden years. Ireland went from having distilleries all over the place to just having a handful. But do not cry for Irish whiskey because, like most things, such as the phoenix, it would rise out of the fire. The late 1990s saw the resurgence of a long and slow resurgence in the Irish whiskey industry with the establishment of the Cooley Distillery in 1987 by John Teeling. And actually, in Ireland, there is a whiskey distillery called Teeling's Distillery. I got to go there. Check out my YouTube channel, Get Rich or Die Crying. It's or Die Crying. It's my other backup channel. You can see more of the traveling that I do, and that shows you the distillery that we went to, and we were able to see the pot stills that they still use. By June 2019, the number of operating distilleries had grown to 25, and several more were in planning stages. As of 2017, roughly 750 people were employed on a full-time basis in the whiskey industry in Ireland. In addition, it is estimated that the industry provides support to further 4,200 jobs across agriculture and other sectors of the economy. As of 2018, sales of Irish whiskey stood at 10.7 million liters, up from 4.4 million cases in 2008, with sales projected to exceed 12 million cases, its historical peak, by 2020. Wasn't that interesting? The history of Ireland? So when we come back tomorrow, you'll see me in a different area. It's going to be hella early for me because I'm on Cali time, so I'm still trying to keep it you guys' time. So it might look a little different, and I might not be able to be as loud as I normally am, but 10 a.m. tomorrow, we're going to jump on and we're going to talk about my first night in Cali for the bartenders weekend. So again, thank you so much for joining me. If you like these, feel free to keep following me every day, 10 a.m. I'll be here 30 days straight. We're building habits. And also, if you want to see more of me, check out my YouTube channel, Diary of a Mad Black Bartender, or my lifestyle channel, Get Rich or Die Crying, and just support your girl. So thank you so much. Thank you for the badge. You made my day. And it's my birthday month. Thank you. Have a great day. Be safe, be sound, be loved, and bye.